Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. I was choking earlier, y'all. Excuse my voice. Today's Daily Recap is for Tuesday, July the 22nd, 2025. Well, that snitchy snitch Lucas goes to the GCPD and files a missing persons report. Said Marco has been missing for more than 28 or 48 hours. And he feels Sonny Corinthos has kidnapped him. Says there's no way he would have missed his mother's memorial service. Well, I'm sorry. His sister Blaze missed her mother's memorial service as well. Maybe the two of them decided to do something personal, just the two of them. Anyway, Chase says, do you have any evidence that Sonny has taken Marco? No, but this is just retaliation from the fire, at Charlie's. Sonny's getting back at Sidwell for almost killing Christina. And he goes, again, Lucas, what proof do you have of it? And of course, the ADA had walked by in enough time to hear Lucas's conversation. And she goes, to the contrary, Detective Chase. Uh, Dr. Jones or Lucas Jones, even if she knew his name, his testimony, what he's saying, that's enough for you to bring Sonny Corinthos in for questioning. Chase looks at her, and Lucas was like, yes, right? So Lucas made his little statement and he left. He went back to the hospital. Now, Sonny was visiting Laura, and he was telling Laura, you need to distance yourself publicly. Do a press conference. He goes, Nina's article or her interview was damaging enough. Um, but I can handle it. He says, but the bad publicity, Laura, you need to just denounce me as well. And she's like, Sonny, I'm not going to do that. He says, I'm doing this for your protection. I don't want to hurt your chances of being reelected. And so she looked at him. She says, have you by chance been speaking to my overprotective, overzealous daughter? And he says, he smiled. He goes, Lulu has your best interest at heart. And she's right, Laura. Laura says, Sonny, uh, I am handling it the way that I'm handling it, you know. And he says, but she was saying, I forget what Laura said, and Sonny says, well, I believe everything's going to start to get better because even with Measure C and even with Sidwell. She goes, really? What makes you think that? He goes, yeah, recent event. I just feel it will. And she's like, oh. And then Sonny gets a phone call from the PCPD, but guess who it was from? ADA Turner. See, because Chase didn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Because Anna let the ADA know, and she let Chase know, no, you work for me. You don't work for the DA's office. Period. So Sonny tells her, I'll be there as soon as I can. And so Laura says, that sounds important. He goes, yeah, nothing I can't handle. And he's like, think about what I said, Laura. Now, Sonny shows up at the PCPD with no Diane because I didn't like it, but he's letting the ADA know, you small potatoes, girl. You can't handle me. That's almost like if Molly called him down. He would feel like, I do not need Diane to deal with Molly. And he looked at her and she goes, He goes, what is this all about? She says, it's about Marco Rios. I have reason to believe you have kidnapped him and he's being held against his will. Sonny looked at her and he said, no, I have not kidnapped Marco. And she says, well, she said, Lucas Jones feels that, you have motive, from the fire at Charlie's, this is retaliation against Sidwell. And he says, again, where's your proof? You have no proof. He says, and why would I want Marco when he saved my daughter Christina from burning in the fire? And she looked at him and she said, yeah, but a fire you feel was caused by Jen's Sidwell. And he looked at her, and I even think she said a fire caused by Jen Sidwell. I don't even know if she said you feel it. See, isn't it funny? Everybody knows who caused the fire. Even though Jen's is nope, the PCPD says it's Selena Woo's folks, right? Yeah, no. So Sonny said, you know what? I know what this is all about. Because he's standing, she's sitting down, and she's looking, what is this all about? And he goes, you called me in here? 'Cause you miss me. And he flashed some dimples. And she's just looking at him. Yeah, girl. He's messing with your head. And needless to say, he sees Jen Sidwell out at the counter, right? And he's just looking at Sidwell. She's still sitting there. So we don't find out what happens after that at that point. Now, Sidwell, before he got there, he went to Drew's house. Drew was there, Martin was there, and Jordan was there. And he told them, oh, I'm having to pull out all my financial backing for this Measure C project. And I'm pulling all the negative press, on Sonny Corinthos. And they're like, why would you do that? Drew's like, wait, what? We need your financial support. And so Sidwell says, well, I'm gonna have to find another benefactor. And Jordan says, okay, this is unlike you. You have been a major, player in this initiative. What's going on? He goes, something more important is causing me to pull back. And so she says, okay, the only person that could cause you to pull back, Sonny Corinthos. And Jordan, I mean, and Drew says, what does he have over you? He says, Sonny Corinthos has my son Marco. And these are his demands in order to release my son. And so Jordan said, oh, Sonny Corinthos. He says, well, no, was it Drew or was it? I think it was Jordan. She says, oh, this is retaliation. Nope, Drew, this is retaliation for the fire you started at Charlie's that almost killed his daughter. And Sidwell looked and he goes, I have this on good authority from the PCPD, my contacts in the PCPD, that it was Selena Woo's men started that fire. And when he said that, Jordan was standing to his left. Drew and Martin were on his right. Jordan, she went like, hmm. And even Drew went, oh. And he looked at Sidwell, he goes, well, Selena and Sonny, they do have a contentious past, but like, yeah, we all know in this room you did it, right? That was funny because Jordan was like, Okay. She goes, it's possible. So he goes, but when I get my son Marco back, oh, Sonny Corinthos is going to feel pain that he has never experienced before. And Jordan's like, okay, so what are your plans? What are you going to do to retaliate against Sonny? And he goes, first, I'm concentrating on getting my son Marco back, period. And then I'm going to deal with Sonny Corinthos. So it's about to go down, right? So Jordan says, well, let's call the PCPD. Let's get the police involved. They can look and they can find Marco. And Sidwell said, for one, there is no time for the PCPD to try to coordinate and find Marco. No, I'm going to meet Sonny's demands and I'm going to get my son back. So we'll see how that goes. Now, Jordan says, well, let me see, what feelers I can do. Jordan goes to Laura. Sonny had already left. And she goes, hi, Laura. She may have even called her Mayor Collins. I really have to talk to you about a development. And she says, oh, what? She says, it's regarding Sidwell and Measure C. And Laura says, okay. She says, Sidwell's pulling all his funding from Measure C. And she goes, I've got good news and bad news. And she goes, okay, what's the good news? And that's when she goes, Sidwell is pulling all his funding from Measure C. And he's going to stop all the negative publicity on Sonny Corinthos. And Laura says, well, that is good news. Sonny was just here telling me that he felt Sidwell would be coming around. And she says, well, what's the bad news, Jordan? Sonny has kidnapped Sidwell's son, Marco. And Laura looks at her. She goes, so she sits at her desk. She goes, in retaliation for the fire at Charlie's that almost killed Christina. And Laura kind of shakes her head. And Jordan says, Laura, you may want to rethink your position on Sonny. See, Sidwell is not worse than Sonny. They are both equally as dangerous. And Laura just looks at Jordan. Jordan's right. And it's about time. See, because now Sonny's had to be in mob boss mode, wartime. Okay. Yeah, you got to get down and dirty. And unfortunately, he better have a plan B because once he gives Marco back, what would he think Sidwell would do? It would be, you know what, Sidwell? You better be moving your son out of the country because if you retaliate against my family again, there is no releasing of your son. Right? So, anywho, now we have the wedding is tomorrow in soap opera land, really Friday, but everybody's saying tomorrow. Drew tells Martin, he gives Martin an envelope. Martin says, what is this? He says, oh, it's an invitation to Willow and my wedding tomorrow. So Martin puts it on the coffee table, says, no, 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 no. I don't do weddings. Mm-mm. Not after the 3 disastrous weddings. Nope. And he goes, we need to fill them seats, Martin. We need people in the seats. You work for me. You'll be at my wedding. So Martin looked at Drew and he said, then okay, this will be work. And this will be billable hours. I want you to know. And Drew looked at him and said, you would do that? And he goes, oh, yeah. So Drew says, look, I got to make a phone call. While you're picking, if you want the chicken or fish, I'll be back. Drew steps outside and he makes a phone call and he calls GH and Elizabeth picks up the phone. He goes, "Is Portia Robinson working today?" And she says, "Yes. Would you like me to put you through?" He said, "No, that won't be necessary." And he hangs up. And Liz was like, "What's going on with that?" Right? So while Drew is out, Martin dropped the invitation. He bends down, he picks it up, but he looks under the chair. See, this writing is so ridiculous. There's this big old card. You could tell crayon drawn, and the envelope, it's a big envelope addressed to Monica Quartermain and her address, but the kids have colored all over it. So Drew comes back in, Martin's holding it because he goes, "What is this under this chair?" And he pulls it out. And he asks Drew, he goes, "Drew, do you know what this is?" And he goes, "Well, I could tell by the drawings on it. Wiley and Amelia had colored that." And he goes, "But it's addressed to Monica Quartermain." He says it must have been one of the times when they were over there. They picked it up to draw on it and they brought it home. So he goes, "Look, I got someplace I gotta be, lock up, finish your RSVP, leave it on the table, make sure the house is locked when you leave." And Martin says, "Okay." Drew leaves. Martin opens the envelope and there's a letter written to Monica and he's reading it. It was written and/or typed. And it's somebody saying, "Hi, Monica, how have you been? I hear you aren't feeling well, or I heard you aren't feeling well." And he's starting to now read more to himself. And I'm thinking, who would be writing Monica a letter? See, now this is going to be somebody from Monica's past. Because as Drew was reading the letter, he went, "Oh." See, so I don't know what it could be. It wouldn't have been Michael when he was in the burn unit, right? I don't know who it was, right? We'll find out. Now, this is going to give Martin some kind of upper hand against, see, it's some kind of unlikely upper hand. Here's my concern with that, the way that was found, everybody. You mean to tell me Willow has not cleaned that house since the kids got taken from her? And or they don't even have a housekeeper? Because if they do, she need to be fired. How you gonna vacuum clean and whatever when the vacuum not hit that envelope, start to try to suck it up, right? The way Willow is with her psychosis, her sitting on the couch, she would have seen all the scribbling on that envelope. Wiley, Amelia, she would have been drawn to that envelope. But Martin just happened to find it. Okay, that was believable. Now let's get to the picture. The picture is Willow gave Elizabeth an envelope. Elizabeth says yes, she will go. So I guess Elizabeth was in that picture. And Willow was so happy. She goes, "This is an important day for Drew." And Elizabeth looked at her. She goes, "Important day for Drew? Well, Willow, this is also should be an important day for you." She goes, "Yes, it is. It's an important day for me. But Drew really wanted to give me this huge, elaborate wedding. Did he really? Drew has enough money. He could have planned a big, elaborate wedding. And guess what? Still nobody would be there. I don't care how big or elaborate he wanted to do. Nobody would come. Willow, right? But because of me and my situation, we're having to settle for something small. So I'm trying to make this day as special as I can for him." Hmm. So Portia texted Willow to come to her office. Before she did that, Isaiah came in. She had texted Isaiah and she was letting him know that there were going to be some changes and she would be, stepping down or leaving her position. And he goes, wait a minute, why? And she goes, it's just I can't get into the entire thing, but I'm going to go to the hospital board and they're probably going to ask me to step down. And he's like, well, is there anything, can't I help? And she goes, no, there's nothing you could do to help. And he's talking about how much they're going to miss her. She was blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, well, whatever you do, he goes, I hope you don't go down without a fight. She says, oh no, I'm going out swinging. And he just looked at her, okay? So he was saying, oh, I have to leave. He told Elizabeth, he goes, Elizabeth, you knew Lucky was giving me a money pit, didn't you? And she kind of smiled and she looked at him. She says, needs a lot of repairs, doesn't it? He goes, yes, it does. But I'm going to make them. And he says, as a matter of fact, all weekend, I'm going to be working with contractors. And she says, but you're going to miss Willow and Drew's wedding. He says, yeah, it can't be helped. He said, because this was the only weekend that I really could coordinate with everybody to get the job done, right? To make sure they know everything they need to do and go over what's been done. See, what they're doing is they're setting us up on now the place is going to be finished after this weekend. Just right for the picking of somebody to be kidnapped there. That's what that was about. He said, so I'm not going to be able to make the wedding. He didn't care. He didn't want to go to that wedding anyway. Right? So anyway, Portia has Willow come in and she goes, oh, I'm so happy you paged me, Dr. Robinson. I wanted to give you this. And so she hands Portia the envelope. And Portia says, what is this? And she goes, this is an invitation to Drew and my wedding tomorrow. We would really like, it would mean the world for Drew if you and Curtis would be there. Because, maybe this would be the first steps to mending their relationship. I know that would mean the world to Drew. Portia stands up, picks the envelope, because I think Willow had put the envelope, laid it down on her desk, picks it up, walks to her trash can, and drops it in her trash can. And Willow says, well, that was unnecessary. Right? And she says, no, it was very necessary. You don't have a clue the kind of man you're marrying. She goes, yes, I know, Drew. And I know the kind of man I'm marrying. And you are my boss. So this is very unprofessional for you to be addressing my personal life. And she says, not when it pertains to Drew, is not. And so not Lulu, Willow's trying to walk out. And she goes, don't you want to hear what he's trying to force me to do? And Willow stops. She's at the door. She stops and she turns around. She says, Drew can't force you to do anything. That's ridiculous. She goes, Drew is blackmailing me. He wants me to falsify Michael's test results to make it look like he is addicted to pain meds. That's the kind of man you're marrying. And Willow looks at her and they leave the scene there. Now, what Portia probably won't be figuring is Willow's going to look at her and say, Michael deserves it. It's not going to sway Willow in the least. She'll say, first of all, Drew would never do nothing like that. This is just and your attempt to turn me against him, and it won't work. And she'll probably walk out. But I kind of believe she'll give her a stupid little smile like she smiled when Sasha left. Like, oof, don't see me smile. He's well, maybe Michael is addicted and turn and walk away. Because what that's going to do, that'll make her think, oh, then I need to fake some test results. I need to do that, right? To Michael. He deserves it. Willow is twisted. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to tomorrow to find out, how Willow responds to Portia. Now, Brooklyn talks to Tracy, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that. Martin shows up at the pool, tells Tracy she now has to be the main benefactor, a Measure C, because they do a lot of TV commercials and a lot of money has to go into all that. She's like, why me? Why can't Drew do it? He goes, doggone well, Drew is a politician and he can't put personal funds into stuff like that. So Tracy's like, fine. And he goes, okay, so Drew will be in touch with you with next steps. She goes, no, 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 he won't. And neither will you. I do not lead you two minions telling me what I need to do. I know what to do. And Martin looks at her, Tracy, one day when your money runs out and you this, that, and the other, you will have no one the way you talk to people. And Tracy looked at him. She goes, well, first of all, that will never happen to where I don't have any money. I'm surprised she didn't say, unlike you. She says, and second of all, I don't care what people think about me. So Brooklyn told her about firing Lois, and she was like, oh, good. I wish I was there. I should have did that. And she said, no, Granny, it felt good working with Ma. It really did. But when the segment ended, oh, Geo came into my head. I just couldn't. The anger came back and blah, blah, blah. So of course, Tracy's all for it. And then Lois talked to that Flora person way too much. I fast forwarded their whole conversation, told her the whole story, and bad, yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, Brooklyn says, I don't understand why you feel you have to be the one to try to run Uncle Sonny out of town. And she said, don't you know that Geo loves him? And when Geo finds out what you're doing, it's going to alienate him even more from you. She goes, well, that's what I have to take. That's the risk I will have to take if it keeps my great-grandson safe. And it will. Sonny Corinthos being sit out of town, that's what this whole town needs. And I thought, Tracy, that's what's stupid. What makes you think he's leaving town? Just because he doesn't have his peers. Idiot. What an idiot. So anyway, that was that conversation. And that pretty much was it, everybody. Nothing else happened. We're ramping into this wedding. And I can't wait. I think we're going to actually have a cliffhanger Friday. I really do. Okay, so let's go to comment corner. There we go. My comments. Today is the bottom down. Yesterday was bottom up. Today is not bottom down, the middle down. So what I did is I let the mouse scroll, and I stopped scrolling. And this is where it stops. It stops right here at Christine. Started my timer. Christine says, don't care about Brit. Hope she comes back as someone new. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I can't even guess right now. And Wendy says, me too. I like her mom, but not Brit Lepian, LOL. Well, Brit can be the Britch. That's why they called her that. Melody says, I love Brit. And I mean, like I love Ava. Ooh. They're fun to watch. But I love the actress. Me too. And put her with Jason, whoever she is. Eventually, they will end up together. And then we have Lucy says, it's always a treat to hear Recap Ladies comment corner, comment corner. Thank you, Lucy. And then Melody says, we love comment corner. And it's so fun to have Daily Recap Lady read our comments and comment on what we say. Yay, thank you. Anytime. I try to get to, some a day because you all are right. I could at least squeeze out 5 minutes a day or so. And then Lucy said the best part of General Hospital Monday's episode for me was Jason Morgan's flashbacks of he and Britt from back in the day. Yeah. DB says, yet Britt times Jason, that is that heat. Yeah. They were good together when they put them together. He accepted Britt flaws and all, just like he accepted Carly, flaws and all. And Britt had no restraints or no conditions on how Jason should live his life. And that's the kind of woman that he needs. And Omulus says, yes, yes. Black Purple Turquoise says, this week officially starts Willow and Drew's wedding from down under. Even the devil himself can't get on board with this sickening mess. When you look at the weekly promo, freeze it and watch to see how many people go. 8 whole people show up at this nightmare on wheels. Alexis, Ava, Rick, Nina, Kai, Martin, Lizzo, and poor Scout. So Elizabeth must not make it. Maybe something comes up at the hospital. Ugh. Even though there's supposed to be disaster at this, they'll end up getting married, and Willow and Drew will somehow manage to be even more insufferable than they already are. I believe that too. And then let me scroll down. Great. There's another great paragraph that Black Purple Turquoise wrote. Everybody watch that, read that. And then Melody says, is Drew gonna put Lila's ring on Willow's finger at the altar? Oh, that would be so tacky and disgusting, right? And then Melody says, well, at least Willow's wedding had more people than Natalia's funeral. I know, right? And he probably paid them or blackmailed them to be there. Well, he had to pay Martin to be there, except Kai. He's another cult member. Yeah, you're so right there, Melody. Black Purple Turquoise said to Melody, Willow won't do anything against Drew, but Nina, she'll blame entirely. Wait, but Nina, she'll blame entirely if when the whole them rolling around together first secret comes out. Don't quite understand that paragraph. That I can see already because she is very unintelligent new nail clone. You mean Willow's new nail clone. Nina's just out there. Nina has always been, oh, Nina's something else. Hot mess. Max says, oh, oh, now thanks. And then Lynn says, yes. And then Max says, can't hear you. Well, everybody can hear me. And then Oki said, first. I don't quite get what first meant, Oki. All right, so that is all the way down to the end. So you know what I'll do? Since I do have a little more time, I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to try to get a few more comments. We have Sharon. Sharon says, Carly tells Brennan too much. There was no need for Carly to tell Brennan about Sasha leaving. Well, she's a little bummed her granddaughter's gone. Vicky says, I agree with you. I know the writers are having Carly fully trust Brennan is plot driven. Carly never gave Jax this much information in all the years of her marriage, shaking my head. And then Melody says she needs to confide in her BF and vent. If she doesn't trust him, she shouldn't be with him. Should she trust him? We will see. No, you can't trust Jack. Jack is going to do Jack. But you know what? Jack has moved heaven and earth for Carly, hasn't he? You got to give him that much. And then Michelle says, I hope we get to see a happy ending for Sasha and Daisy. Oh, we did. Moved to grandpop's and grandmom's home, grandmother's home. There should be a good story for them. There's enough excitement, drama, and mischief in General Hospital and other stories. We don't need a nail biter in Sasha's story. No, not right now. Let Sasha have some peace. Sasha went for a whole good year or more in absolute chaos and turmoil after her baby died, Brando died, the drug thing, and Gladys. Oh, goodness. Right? And being committed, that was crazy. All right, everybody, that is it for Comment Corner. I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General Hospital.